Hello, and thank you for coming to the November 13th council meeting. It is 7:33 p.m. This is our CC. Will you please call the roll?
November 14th?
November 14th.
Mr. Barker?
Here.
Mr. Bilkey?
Here. Barely.
Ms. Brandt?
Here.
Ms. Tully? Here. Mr. Ventura?
Here.
Thank you. Now I'll ask Mr. O'Brien of the American Legion to lead us on the Pledge of Allegiance and invocation.
Your Honor, this past Monday, we celebrated Veterans Day, and on behalf of veterans all over, throughout the world, and especially in this room at this time, I would like to give the Veterans Day American Legion invocation at this time. O God of hosts, we bow our heads in thankfulness for the victories thou hast granted us, to us and to those people who have united with us to stamp out the evils of aggression, intolerance, and greed. We beseech thee to bring the blessings of understanding to the families and friends in this and other lands of those who have given their lives that men may be free. Grant, O God, that those closest to the fallen may mingle the pain of their losses with the ennobled light of the sacrifice for civilization. Sacrifice for a better world for this and for other generations yet unborn. Grant us too, O God, the courage to live with a family of nations around the world, that the end of strife will be the beginning of enduring peace. Grant us the patience in planning with our fellow men and women, a world in which nations may resolve their differences by peaceful means. Touch thou the souls of people in every land with the enduring light of wisdom, so they may be from a brotherhood which will strive to further the arts of peace under laws and ethics blessed by thy love. Grant us now thy continued blessing upon unity and strength that make victories possible in war, that we may win greater victories in peace. Amen. Amen. And now please face the flag and hand over heart. Join me in our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you as always, Mr. O'Brien. Appreciate it. First up on the agenda is the financial report of October 31st, 2019.
I'd like to acknowledge the financial report as given to us by the finance director, dated October 31st, 2019.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next up is public comments. We ask that you come to the microphone here, state your name, your address, and keep it to 5 minutes or less. I'll ask Chief Golden to keep the time for us. And first up, we have Mr. Finley.
Good evening, I'm Dave Finley, 7783 Creekside Parkway. I'm basically here to discuss the new sign code. As many of you know, I'm on the Planning Commission and worked with our city planner to try to develop the new code, which really does need updated. However, there's two provisions that I'm not too happy with as it came out. 1179.13F basically limits signs to primary and complementary colors. This is red, yellow, blue, orange, green, and purple. That does not include white, black, and gray, which are on most of our signs in the city. With that in tandem, with 1179.15, let's see, K3, the grandfather clause for non-compliant signs is now gone. Without that, any sign that doesn't follow the previous regulation that I just mentioned with the colors, if they change a simple nameplate, the entire sign needs to be updated. That's a big burden on a lot of our business owners. That doesn't have to happen if we just keep the exemption in there, and as well as add white, black, and gray to the code. So at this time, I would recommend that it's not passed and it's brought back to the Planning Commission for further advisory. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Deb Mikulski and Mr. Casper.
Deb Mikulski, 142 May Avenue, Northfield.
John Kasmer, Chinook Trail, Macedonia, Ohio. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Mayor, departments. Merry Christmas to everybody. We're not giving public comments. We're giving the Longwood Manor Committee report. We have a couple things to report. In fact, I'm going to let Deb talk about them. Deb is the vice president of the Longwood Manor Historical Society. She's been in the group actually longer than I have. And she's been working a lot on the two holiday activities that we got coming up, one November and one in December. So I'm going to let her tell you all about those.
Okay, originally our mission statement for the Manor House was to bring community together, and that was our main goal in trying to save the house, and ultimately we have. So now we want to put it to the community and try to create community things happening there. So we have two fundraisers that are happening this Sunday, November 17th at Casa D'Angelo's. We're going to have from 12 to 3 a spaghetti dinner with raffles, and the dinner for the adults is $10 and $5 for children. Also, on December 14th, at the end of the Christmas buying season, in most craft fairs, we are going to hold a craft fair at the Manor House. And right now, we have 6 committed crafters for the craft fair, and then we have about 7 more that are going to hopefully come. We'll have spiced cider, coffee, tea. We're also going to have cookies for sale and chili, and those are the 2 activities that we're trying to bring community together. That's all I have to say.
What time is the craft fair?
The craft fair, I'm sorry, is from 10 to 4.
One day this year. Last year we did the craft show for the whole month. This time it's a one-day thing.
Okay,
Thank you. Thank you.
thank you.
Appreciate it. Next up, we have Mr. Benjamin.
It would be easier for me if we had a podium. I'll try to get things organized where you can hear me. I don't normally speak very often to councilmen and council meetings or the folks unless I sort of intuitively see a problem is starting. And that's when I do a lot of research. I start with Nordonia News. I do the news leader. I talk to the guys that are on the trucks in service department, the fire department, the police department. So I'm not just talking out of a clear blue sky. I've got a lot of facts here. If I stop breathing, don't worry about it. I'm on a lot of meds, and I got chronic bronchitis, and I got about 70% oxygen in my body. So I've taken the time to type this out so I don't overlook anybody. Okay, my name is Bart Benjamin. I live at 1078 Macedonia, Shoshone. I do not speak very often. I mentioned that, so not to forget anything I want to create, I only have 5 minutes to do this. A few months back, I needed to dispose of some old landscape timbers, which were very heavy for my wife and I to move to the curb. I called my good friend Michael DeBrosi and asked him if he would swing by in the neighborhood and pick them up. He immediately said I cannot use a city truck, but would figure something out for me. At the end of the day, Michael had spoken to our city service director, Mr. John Hodavanich, and he said, you can use my personal truck to do if you want to do it at lunchtime. Michael asked Tim Halad and Nick, I think it's Fazio, to help him, and they gave up their lunchtime also and picked up my timbers. This shows once again how helpful the people of the service department are. They really do care about taking care of you and all of us and the needs of our city. And I want to publicly thank Michael for coordinating that. Moving on, I would like to thank the fire department under Chief Brian Ripley's tutelage for once again providing another great pancake breakfast last Sunday. I know my family looks forward to it each year, and they definitely enjoyed last Sunday. I would also like to mention the fantastic police department who cares for us 24/7.
We are so lucky to have full-time people performing outstandingly under Chief John Golden's watch. They put their lives on their line every day they come to work. Main thing is they leave their own issues in the background, and they put your needs up front. And to that I say, from all of us, we thank you. Thank you. You're welcome. Allow me now to discuss some important issues we are facing. I have over 40 years' experience managing groups of people. These groups ran anywhere from 15 to 300 employees. I started out managing when the groups were small, doing everything myself, which included planning new projects, establishing the daily and weekly workloads, which included developing manpower and machine workloads, all production requirements, even recommending purchasing requirements, and sometimes ordering the raw material myself. I also tried to be highly productive and efficient at all levels. I hold myself to that regard. And to do this, it meant me having to keep a watchful eye on all aspects of what was going on everywhere. As the requirements grew, I rather quickly learned I could not do it all. I was doing exactly what John Hodavanich has been doing for the last 3 years, since he became service director. You do not know it, but John really has absolutely no family life to speak of. He has been working about 15-hour days, even on the weekends and during his vacation. He's always on call. I've called him at 9:30 at night, and he answers the phone. I was burning myself out, just like John has been doing now. The difference between John and I is I realized there was a problem, and I did something about it. On the other hand, John has not yet realized there's a monitoring issue in his department, and it now needs to be corrected. John is not keeping up with the workload, and the way Macedonia is growing, he will never catch up with it. He needs our help. John cannot be efficient when he's out of the office driving around doing his best to motivate, lead, and monitor 5 different groups working out of 5 different locations. This is ridiculous. He continues to try so hard to monitor where his guys are and what they are doing and if they are following what he has directed them to do. Where the issue starts is when he's running around in his truck, his office work is not getting done. We have all heard the fact that, you can't be in 2 places at once. Old news. This is one of the reasons why it takes extremely too long to get a project started and completed professionally. It is not easy to run efficiently when there is a lack of direct and daily dictation and direction, which is lacking, thus reducing service department efficiency that's seriously lacking today. After John's busy day in the field, he gets to come back to his office to do paperwork and develop the next day's working plan. When does this man come up for air? And I'm serious about that. The council members need to stand up now and make this problem go away. We must support John so we can have an efficient running service department that leads and keeps up with Macedonia's needs as we grow. You might be asking, how do we do this? And the answer is, like all other cities around us, we have developed we need to develop a management buffer position. We should have created this buffer position for John to help him out and the service department staff at least 2.5 years ago. I'm not saying the current service department staff, all 16 of them, staff all 16 of them, they cannot do the job. They do. They have certainly been working and trying to pull their load without John being present. But you cannot run the city's service requirements from a phone at home in pain or driving around in a truck. It just will not work. When John is better at the end of the year, he needs to stay in his office, not in the truck running around. The only communications he should have during working hours with his service department staff is through this new created position. If I may suggest, council should strongly consider approving to hire a non-union person as a service department buffer who has the current experience working with cities in regards to all the services a service department provides to a city. This person must be excellent in communications, recommendations noting his work history in the field of management area, i.e. the new person will not be sitting behind a desk. He will be in the field monitoring job performance compared to directions that are given every day. This person must be strong, personable, think outside the box, not easily swayed, and willing to hold staff employees accountable for what they are directed to do when they are asked to do it, which currently is not part of the present reviews. This new person at first should be assigned to working nights, since there's currently no supervision at all in the evening. This effort will quickly stop all the wasted time. The last thing I want to mention this evening is our City Council has finally approved a salary increase for our mayor after 19 years. This is utterly ridiculous for the city to let this position go so long and being underpaid. We, the people, just voted and put the mayor in place for the next 4 years to run our city. That means he is responsible for everything that happens in every department every day and monitors how they are performing. He cares about all the employees who efficiently and accurately in all aspects and how they are performing their duties. He is not a micromanager, and that is important to say. And he allows all department heads to manage and do the right thing to run their department correctly. They are responsible. In this year, he met with all department managers. He has corrected incorrect procedures that were running awry, i.e. Giving us false hopes for the city's money-wise and projected growth. Our mayor holds himself personally accountable, and we Macedonia citizens hold him accountable, and we will. All department heads have agreed to be held accountable for their department, which will improve overall department efficiencies from the head person to the last person hired. Macedonia has and will continue to grow, and we cannot stop that. We need to keep up with the mayor and help him out. The mayor at the helm will continually give 100% effort in all areas of this city 365 days a year. It is not an 8-to-5 job. This is exactly what we have at the top right now in our mayor, Nick Monar. For those folks who are not aware of the approved salary increase, when you consider the cities around us, and yes, consider their population in calculating the most and all of the certainty and the facts that our current mayor's salary was considerably less than any department head he is responsible for, and if you put our city's needs ahead of your personal feelings, then I would hope you will understand why the salary increase was the right thing to approve. My thanks goes out to those council members who stood up and did the right thing in approving this mayor's salary increase. Thanks for the floor. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Benjamin. Okay, last on our list here is Mr. Hayes from Avera.
Hi, everybody. How you doing tonight?
Good.
Members of the council, citizens of Macedonia, the department heads. My name is Andrew Hayes. I'm the senior manager of the consulting practice for Avero Advisors. I'm here to talk to all of you this evening about the information technology assessment. Prepared a brief agenda. Initially, we're going to go over introductions. I'll talk a little bit about the project scope, the methodology and timeline, some of our findings, and then we'll wrap things up. A little bit about Avero. Avero Advisors is an IT modernization firm. We're based in the Knoxville area of Tennessee. We help local governments to rethink IT. Specifically, we build smarter cities that empower their employees to enrich the lives of the citizens that they serve. We have been doing this work. I specifically have been doing this work for over 15 years. I've worked with more than 30 cities across the country. I understand that your respective teams do the best with what they have and that some of their technologies may be antiquated. I know it can be frustrating. In terms of the clients that we've worked with, there you can see even though we're based in the Knoxville area, we're a national firm. In terms of our expertise, there really isn't one department across state, local, county, regional transit authorities, metropolitan housing authorities, public utilities that we haven't worked with. We also pride ourselves on having worked with many of the most renowned names in enterprise software. For example, when you think of ERP, Usually one of the first big names you think of are Tyler Technologies. We've been successful in implementing those. You know, in Westlake, we've got, when you think of document management, we've got OnBase by Highland. You know, and when you think of service and engineering and development services and building, you think of Esri's ArcGIS, so we're familiar with all of those. So this project ended up being a 2-month study. We were charged with the task of conducting a comprehensive review of information technology here at the City of Macedonia, and when I say that, I'm talking about the IT infrastructure, the business systems that our teams are using, the resources that we have, the staffing that we have in the technology department, the funding, and our service delivery model. And you know, throughout this multi-phased engagement over 2 months, our discovery led us to understanding both the culture here at the city, getting a snapshot of what the current state of technology is, and also engaging members of council, the mayor, the department heads, and your respective employee base to understand how the city would like to use technology as a tool in the future. And when I say that, I'm talking about how can we better communicate across departments working as teams? How can we better engage the citizens? And how ultimately can we utilize technology as a tool to improve our service delivery model to the citizens of Macedonia? So once we were able to get that snapshot and look at how are we doing things today versus how do we want to do things in the future using technology, we were able to look at what are those inherent gaps. And then as we began to develop our IT modernization strategies, Avera was able to use our institutional knowledge along with current industry best practices and formulate strategy. Like I said, it was a 2-month study, multi-phase. The first phase was discovery. Once we gathered all the data, did our visioning, then we did our analysis, and then we moved on to the formulation of our strategy. It took us about 2 months, and then we developed the report, and I'm happy to be here presenting to all of you all tonight. In terms of the major findings, we identified the opportunity to hire a new IT director. And with the help of Annette and the mayor's office and John Barris, we were able to develop a very comprehensive job description for what our vision of the new IT director would be. I actually led that search. It ended up being a national search. We even had someone from Zimbabwe that applied for the job. We ended up not interviewing him, but would have taken him quite some time to get here. But at any rate, we were looking for an individual that's a very competent professional, that has a lot of technical expertise, has extensive experience, somebody that can deal with folks from different departments coming at him or her at the same time, and who also is a visionary. I don't want just someone that can run a help desk. And I'm thankfully that we hired Kyle Collins. Right from the get-go, Kyle was my first choice. We were very, very shrewd. It was a pretty difficult interview process, but he emerged as the leading candidate, just as we believed. So, to the citizens, we finally have the right guy, and I feel good about that. The next thing that we found were there's some opportunities for us to make some improvements in the infrastructure. And what do I mean by that? I mean improving the ways that our different facilities are connected, improving the communications across the departments so our phones aren't going down, things like that, so our internet is staying up, so that our folks out at the rec center, while they're running and jogging, for a lot of folks, that's the highlight of their day. We want them to be able to still be on their iPhone, and have Wi-Fi access. So, the other part of that is I realize that, in order to maximize the capacity of what we have, we've got to make sure that we have the proper infrastructure in place. So not only now do we have the right person to manage all the IT resources, but we've got a roadmap of how we can start to improve the infrastructure. And then the last part of that is IT modernization. I realize that our it's
it takes a lot to get things done, to serve the citizens, to serve our coworkers. And, while there's, a lot of bells and whistles out there right now, we're really inundated with hard copy paper. And, when you start to think of modernization, and I'll give you an example. Let's say that you're on your way to the council meeting, and, the weather's starting to get bad. There's a crack in the pavement. There's a pothole. You blow out a tire. IT modernization is going to give you, the citizens, the ability to get out of your car, take a picture of the damage to your car, take a picture of that pothole, send it out to the portal, for the service department, for their work order management system. Automation, so that John doesn't have to disrupt his family time at night. It's already going to create a work order and send it to one of our supervisors in the service department. We can really start to work smarter, and that way our folks aren't completely overworked. How can we work smarter, not harder? So how can we engage better with the citizens so that we're improving our communications, and ultimately we're meeting the needs of our fellow coworkers, and we're meeting your needs. So through IT modernization, we can start to really automate workflows, and we can build efficiencies. So this project has been a great success. In terms of the prioritization of the strategies, back in the day, IT strategic plans were 10 years, and then it was 5 years. Well, now 3 years is pretty much the extent of it. And working with the mayor and with John and with Kyle, they're starting to really get a hold of what are some of those low-hanging fruit, those strategies that call for immediate implementation. That's 1 to 6 months. We also looked at short-term, 6 months to 1 year, and then intermediate, which are 1 to 3 year. So I just want to thank the council, want to thank the mayor. I'd like to thank the department heads and your respective teams. This has been a very, very successful initiative. Like I said, I've been part of more than 30 strategic plans for cities across the country, and it's been truly a pleasure to serve all of you. I look forward to...
Sorry. Time's up.
Chief, I'm wrapping it up. So I look forward to serving the city in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, moving into pending or new legislation, ordinance 85.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to offer ordinance number 85, 2019 for its third reading by title only, please.
Second.
An ordinance amending Chapter 137 of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Macedonia, creating the position of Service Department Supervisor within the Department of Public Service.
Can we have a roll call, please?
I was just reading it.
Mr. Barker,
Yes,
Mr. Belkey,
You're just reading?
just reading.
No, we're just reading it, we're not.
I thought you offered for third read.
No, I
Yes.
just offered to read it for a third read. We just read it.
Oh,
I was saying yes to the read. Okay.
okay, yeah, I got that part. So do you still want a roll call on the read?
yes.
Okay. Mr. Barker?
Yes.
You said yes. Mr. Belkey? This is just reading it.
Yes.
Ms. Brandt?
Yes.
Ms. Tully?
Yes.
And Mr. Ventura?
Yes.
What's your pleasure?
I ask that we post and pass according to law ordinance number 85, 2019.
And I'll ask for a roll call again, please.
Second.
Okay. Mr. Barker?
You know, I'm in my 9th year in council, and very few issues come up that have caused this much consternation. Jan has been a mentor of mine for most of those 9 years we've been in council together. So it's difficult when her and I don't always agree, but I would submit that, you know, doing this, I think, is keeping the word to the residents as well. But I think we need to commit ourselves that we need boots on the ground. There's no question that we need boots on the ground as well as supervision out there. I mean, I come from supervision. I know what it does and what it can do. And if I was doing my job, I didn't care who was supervising me. The mayor says we need this. I've talked to the service director. He says we need it. I got to put faith in the individuals that we've put up to, you know, run our city. I vote yes.
Mr. Bilkey?
Yeah, I look at it from a different perspective that, you know, we've put the service director through a lot over the last 2 years, doing projects that they're not necessarily hired for, and now those projects are being finished. He won't be running around with his chicken with his head cut off. There's a laundry list of why I don't think this position is needed at this point. We just heard the IT video that said, you know, we're going to be more efficient, and that's a department that maybe benefits greatly from the new IT upgrade. And I think bottom line though, this is going to cost the city close to $65,000 in salary and another $35,000 in benefits and in retirement. And I think that money could be spent better elsewhere. Not one area. I think one area could be putting another person in the service department that can do the work. I'm not opposed to the position. I just don't think that it's needed right now. I think that the foreman could be, you know, I guess no other avenues have been searched to improve our efficiency. We don't have an HR that's been writing these guys up. I'm not sure if hiring a supervisor would improve efficiency. It hasn't been proven to me. All it is, you know, a position that may or may not be needed. I don't think the taxpayers should foot the bill for it, so I'm going to vote no.
Ms. Brandt?
I agree with Mr. Barker. You know, the mayor and the service director are running this department, and they've asked us to put this position in, and I do think that it would be beneficial to both the workers in the department and to the residents, so I vote yes.
Ms. Tully?
I do appreciate the work that the service director has done. The previous service director said if he kept the level of employees' feet on the street, he only needed 2 people in the office and his foreman. We are down 3 to 5 workers in the street. As Mr. Bilkey said, the IT is saying that with the modernization, any paper that the 2 clerks do now will be mechanized, which will help process and help keep things moving. For the past 2 levies, we've talked about the fact we don't have enough feet on the street. For the past 2 levies, and the mayor will say, well, I promised to add 1 person. But we basically stated staffing levels have decreased 25% since 1990. Well, demands for services have increased by 40%. Since the 90s, our lane miles, which is what we have to care for, has increased by over 20%. If it passes, all part-time service workers will be eliminated. That's if it failed. If it passed, we were going to add people. That's one document that was released by this administration. The second one stated the city will also be able to hire additional service department employees. I believe we should put our money where our mouth is. We campaigned for you to pay more taxes. That was to put feet on the street. My vote is no.
Mr. Ventura?
I don't often comment after everyone else has, but I will at this time. Okay, this is still putting more feet on the ground. Okay, and what nobody has said about this foreman that they're talking about that could supervise or manage is your city electrician. And I gave this example in the work session. Your electrician is up in a bucket on Route 82, and somebody at a different location or another team at a different location has an issue. Okay, is he supposed to come down out of that bucket, undo his harness, take all of that time away from the project he's working on? The fire department doesn't do it, the police department doesn't do it. When they have issues or questions, they don't call the chief's office. The guys on the street shouldn't be calling the service director's office. They should have somebody else to go to. I vote yes.
Ordinance 85 passes, and I'll make a few comments regarding that. In the levy, I did say that we would add 1. It's irresponsible
to sit in front of all of you and say that, well, we're just gonna throw more bodies at a problem without having data to back that up, which is what I've stated every time that we've talked about. This is what we've talked with the service director, human resources, myself have sat around for hours talking about how we solve some of the problems that we have within the department. The biggest problem we have is Mr. Notavange, Director Notavange, gives his all to that position. And I'm gonna say he gives too much, because it gets to the point where that gentleman can't even take a day off. Every time he has a day off, he's in here dealing with some problem and some issue, because there's a lot to deal with. When you operate out of 5 different locations with 16 different people, you can imagine that that adds up to a lot. The answer that I have today, and I've said it in the work session, but I think it may have been ignored or not heard, but we're gonna add seasonals. And with those seasonals, we can determine what we need going forward. With seasonals, we can say, you know, reasonably, for the unskilled labor that we may have, we may need 2 people. At no point, after we pass that levy, which is the fund of 280, did anyone on this council that is opposing this say, we need to add some more people? It's a little perplexing to me when someone says, well, you said you would have more people, but it was never brought forward, because I generally bring those things forward. This is a need, this isn't a want. There's some issues that we need to deal with within the department, and I think this is gonna drive towards better efficiency. We have a great group of guys, there's no doubt about it. They work very hard, especially this week with going from leafing to plowing and working ungodly hours. These gentlemen are tired, but they need a little bit more guidance, and that's what I'm trying to convey to everyone. Anyone that's listening to this or watching this that works in any facet of any business in the world, how many of you have one person that supervises an entire department that operates out of 5 different locations? If one of you can come back and tell me you do, I'd love to hear about it, but that's not usually the case.
One of the, you and I have spoken about adding people back. So don't take it that no one's ever brought the question back up. It has happened. The other thing is we're down foreman. And yes, so our electrician is performing both. If you had another person on the street, you could add another foreman back. So, you know, there's 2 ways to go about this. I just hope that we can live up to our promise to add more people into the service department as needed, and not just seasonal. My son was a seasonal. He worked 3 months and then went back to school. You need people year-round.
All right. Moving right along, I offer ordinance number 86, 2019, for its third read by title only.
Time out. Time out. Just to be clear about what's talked about here again tonight is, there's also some issues with, you know, with the foreman that we used to have was removed from the position. I'm not gonna get into some of the things that we deal with day to day, but there was a reason for those things happening. And it was okay, when it's all said and done, I did say in there as well, I'm gonna add that foreman back. That's still not gonna solve the problem. Ordinance 86.
So read.
Okay, so,
I need a second.
Second.
and this is for the 3rd reading?
Correct.
An emergency ordinance amending ordinance number 69, 2019, relative to the compensation schedule for the non-union city employees of Macedonia.
I move that we pass and post ordinance number 86, 2019.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye,
Nay.
nay, whatever.
Do you have that, Josephine?
I do.
Okay. Ordinance 86 passes. Ordinance 92.
I'd like to offer ordinance 92, 2019, for its 2nd reading by title only, please.
An ordinance providing for the 2020 annual appropriations.
Ordinance 95.
I'd like to offer ordinance number 95, 2019, for its 1st, 2nd, and 3rd reading by title only, please.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with Cigna to provide health insurance coverage for eligible City of Macedonia employees.
What's your pleasure?
I'd like to first of all thank Annette, our HR director, as well as every member of the task force committee. It's never easy deciding which, well, as those of you who may be watching TV lately and seeing the 4,000 commercials about health insurance, it's very difficult to make a decision of what you want to do, especially if you may have to change carriers. And we don't have a lot of employees to get us the attention of the big guys. I worked for AT&T. Yep, we knew what everything was in August because we had thousands and thousands of people. So I do want to say thank you for all the work and for the task force members, all their questions. Because with that, there's an agreement. I would like to ask that we pass and post according to law, ordinance number 95,
Second.
2019.
Sorry, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ordinance 95 passes, and thank you again, Annette, for all the hard work you did with that and with the employees to get us to where we are. We appreciate that. Ordinance 96.
Your Honor, I'd like to offer ordinance 96 for its first reading by title only.
An ordinance amending Chapter 1179 of the codified ordinances of the City of Macedonia relative to sign regulations.
Ordinance 97.
Just a mention on that, 96, Jan, you want to mention the meeting? There'll be a public meeting about this ordinance, this change, amending of the sign ordinances on January 9th at 7:15 before the council meeting. So if anyone has any public comments on that, please attend that meeting and you'll be able to speak then.
And if you have questions, talk to our planning commission members. They are the ones who have been working on this. And Mr. Finley is one of them. He's still here. Please don't hesitate. If you want to read it, well, it's pretty lengthy. It's better to get the condensed version.
Ordinance 97.
I move to offer ordinance number 97, 2013 for its first, second, and third readings by title only.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
An emergency ordinance adopting and implementing procedures to facilitate effective reutilization of non-productive land in the City of Macedonia.
Director Gaddetti, can you give a brief explanation of this, please?
Sure. Simply put, this is an ordinance that allows the city to work with the land bank and utilize procedures set forth in the revised code to take property that's not really generating taxes, whether through delinquency in taxes or property that's going through the foreclosure process, and make it profitable again for the school district, for the municipality, and the residents.
Thank you. And what's your pleasure?
I ask that we pass and post ordinance number 97, 2019, and the same according to law.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ordinance 97 passes. Ordinance 98.
I move to offer ordinance number 98, 2019 for its first, second, and third readings by title only.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
An emergency ordinance approving a petition for special assessments for special energy improvement projects and a plan for public improvements, approving the necessity of acquiring, constructing, and improving certain public improvements in the city in cooperation with the Akron Summit County Energy Special Improvement District, determining to proceed with the such project, and determining to levy special assessments in connection with such project. Everybody has to repeat that back.
Well done, thank you.
Director Gaddetti, explanation, please.
Sure. So it's a lot of words to basically allow the city to participate in a county energy special improvement district and obtain a loan through the county. That loan's going to be repaid through a special assessment on this property owned by the city, which isn't always the case. Sometimes it's privately owned. And that funding is going to be for the purpose of energy efficient permanent improvements on the property. I should make a note that normally with the special assessment process, like we saw several meetings ago, you normally have a resolution of necessity and you go through a whole long procedure. Because this is the city's property, the ordinance contemplates a waiver of all that process, and it's allowed to be done under the revised code.
Thank you. And what's your pleasure?
Say that we pass and post ordinance number 98, 2019, and the same according to law.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ordinance 98 passes. Resolution 99.
Did you catch it?
I'd like to offer Resolution 99, 2019 for its first, second, and third reading by title only, please.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
A resolution accepting the amounts and rates and as determined by the Budget Commission and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the Summit County Fiscal Office.
And what's your pleasure?
I move that we pass and post Resolution 99-2019 according to law.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution 100.
I'm sorry. I'd like to offer Resolution 100, 2019 for its first, second, and third reading by title only, please.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Oh, let's see how I can butcher this. A resolution authorizing the advance of local taxes by the Summit County Fiscal Office to the City of Macedonia for 2019 tax year payable in 2020.
And what's your pleasure?
I move we pass and post Resolution 100, 2019 according to law.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ordinance 101.
I'd like to make a motion adding to the agenda Ordinance 100-2019 and waiving the 48-hour rule.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? What's your pleasure?
An-
Oh, no, you have to offer.
Now you have to offer it.
I'd like to
Yeah.
offer Ordinance
We're just
101,
adding.
2019 for its first, second, and third reading by title only, please.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
An ordinance amending ordinance number 114, 2018, relative to current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Macedonia for the period of January 1, 2019 to December 31st, 2019.
What's your pleasure?
This is reference to this year's budget, so Mr. Veras, could you give us a short reason why we're doing this and moving funds from one to the other, please? And the effect to the budget?
The effect to the general budget is nothing.
Okay.
And what we're doing is moving some money to assist in recent issues that arose during the storm for vehicle repair and to help continue wrapping up the project at the Family Rec Center.
I move we pass and post Ordinance 101-2019 according to law.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ordinance 101 passes.
Abstain. Wasn't at the meeting, so I feel like I should vote.
Still passes. Okay. Any other motions or legislative actions? Correspondence from the clerk.
I have several, sir. So this is to the police department, and it is Adam Zivsik and Sabrina Burrows. I just want to say thank you to you all. Last year, you guys responded to our burglary call and caught the suspects in minutes. Today, your response to my security alarm in minutes and made sure everything was okay. Our family really appreciates knowing we have a team of great police officers working in Macedonia. Butchered that name, I'm sure. This is to the director of the Parks and Rec regarding an employee, Gabby, a front desk employee, from Philip Mayfarth. Last Friday, I began, this was in November, early November, I began having symptoms, and my wife, Sally, called or tried calling 911, but perhaps misdialed and for some reason did not get through. She attempted to call various neighbors for help, but without success. She then called the rec center. Miss Gabby answered the phone, and she understood the situation. She remained calm, and she successfully connected Sally to the Macedonia Emergency Services and stayed on the phone until the emergency responders took charge. We are all quite thankful for their kindness and help we received from Gabby. She was a real help to us that day, and we thank you all. We thank all of you that she's part of your staff.
She was the employee of the month.
I didn't know
She
that.
should be, huh?
But could I add a little sidebar about the Mayfarth family, for many of you that don't know? They are the family that have the farm on Shepherd Road. And quite a long time ago, they donated 38 acres of land, which is now Sugar Bush. So that is the same family.
Very cool.
Yes. Dear Mayor Moeller, thank you for requesting a newly married couple to give a donation for their marriage to the Emergency Assistance Center. Their gift will be used to help supply food, personal care items, and clothing for approximately 300 families. Many families who are having difficulty putting food on the table often experience anxiety and feeling of helplessness. The funds will help ease this burden and lift the spirits of the nearly 1,000 individuals we serve in a month. We are grateful for your partnership in helping neighbors in need of receiving assistance. This is from Joyce Hunt, the Executive Director of the Emergency Assistance Center in Northfield Center.
Just one thing, and I probably get in trouble for this, but if any volunteers this time to that agency, it's a good endeavor. Anybody else? But thank you.
My pleasure.
So the marriage was obviously the ceremony that the mayor officiated at, and so this couple made the donation. This is by the Dawn's Early Light. Dawn Sherma, founder. On Tuesday, December 17th, by the Dawn's Early Light, we'll be hosting our 3rd annual Christmas party for the Summit County foster children who've been directly affected by addiction. We partnered with Summit County Department of Children's Services since September of 2017. Since then, we have hosted 2 Christmas parties, 2 summer picnics, and our first Halloween party. We are happy to announce that Northfield Village Fire Department has come aboard and partnered with us this year in making a positive impact on the life of a foster child. Our goal this year is to raise enough money to purchase each child a winter jacket, hat, and gloves, along with their Christmas presents. By the Dawn's Early Light is asking for your consideration to donate for this wonderful cause in helping make a positive impact on a child's life. I don't know how,
That
I
was the end of
suppose
it.
you can make the,
That
yeah,
was it.
yeah, okay, that's it.
Thank you. Moving on to the mayor's report. Kind of an interesting week for us this week. We had our service crews out doing leaf pickup, and then we were plowing snow. So this is kind of what Ohio does to us, and I want to commend the service department in their efforts this week because they worked a lot of hours and worked very hard to get the things accomplished that we needed to get done. And having to switch over that quickly was very trying, and we had some breakdowns that cost us some time and effort. So I want to thank the department and Director Nadavanje for the efforts this week. Swenson's is moving through Planning Commission. They'll be here on Monday. I think we have everything fairly sorted out, so hopefully we'll have some resolve on that. I want to thank Home Depot. They provided breakfast for the employees of the city today. It was a very nice gesture from them, and I think the city employees. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Lowe's. I apologize. It was Lowe's, and they all appreciated that. So, thank you to Lowe's. I'm going to probably step on Angela's toes, but the tree lighting ceremony here is December 8th from 5 to 7. Santa will be here, and it's going to be a pretty neat event this year, so if you can make it, I would hope you could. A big announcement is we went through the civil service process. I cannot speak today. Civil service process.
It's not
Yeah,
just
you got me. And we have come to the point where we are going to hire the assistant chief, which will be Mr. Solinsky. So we welcome him into his new role, and we're very excited to have him move up, and I'm sure you'll touch on that as well. And finally, don't drive distracted. Put the phones down and drive the vehicle.
Do you have Brown's fever?
I do have Brad's fever. Committee reports.
Parks and Rec Committee had its last meeting for the year on, earlier this month. We approved the budgets that were to be now approved by council, and we look forward to having another great year in 2020. Everyone that's currently on the committee will be back again. So our next meeting is January 15th. January 15th. We have decided to move the meetings to the 3rd Wednesday in January, so I will coordinate with Mrs. RCC to get those on the calendar.
We'll have a Finance Committee of the Whole meeting December 3rd. It's a Tuesday at 6:30 in Council Caucus. Please come and watch us talk about the 2020 budget. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to department reports. Director Nadavanje.
Thank you, Mayor. You said everything I wanted to say, so I really got to stop speaking out loud when I'm going over my talking points in my office. You can hear me. Yeah, you know, the crew did a good job. You know, on Monday they were leafing all day till 6 o'clock p.m., only to be called into work for coming to snowplow not even 8 hours later. So to have that transition, I mean, they did a great job. You know, there was some complaints on social media about, you know, the roads are terrible. Well, this is Northeast Ohio. It's the first snowfall. They were terrible everywhere. The freeways, you know, major arteries, even ODOT couldn't keep up with all of their, you know, sophisticated equipment. When you're getting snow coming down an inch an hour, you're not going to keep up with it. We did suffer one catastrophic break, one of our trucks. We don't have the full extent, but it did lose all of its fluids on 82, causing a major backup all along 82. Our mechanics were out there. We had to disassemble the plow off of the truck, get the truck into a parking lot, put the plow on a different truck, and halt and get that back over to our yard. So that's being diagnosed right now, and can't wait to see what that bill's going to be. Thank you, John, for getting some money together. We will be going back leafing starting Monday. We need to update our website. I apologize, I've not done that yet, to show the new start date. Will be Monday, starting still in the north zone. We're almost 2/3 of the way through the north end of town on the second pass right now. And we're going to keep going as long as the weather permits, and let's hope we don't get snow again until February.
Wishful thinking, and thank you.
You guys were out on the weekend doing leaves before it snowed. That was awesome. At least at my
Yeah, we took advantage of the weather while we had. We were going to consider this weekend, but with the snow that's still on there, I do not want to damage the machines. We already have one breakdown now, so we still have 3 machines. So I'm gonna allow the weekend for snow to melt, some more to start again on Monday.
That's great. I appreciate the extra effort everyone's putting in.
Thank you. Mr. Gelati.
Sure. Thanks, Mayor. I'll be brief. Just one announcement, and it's good news. Council may remember a few months ago, legislation was passed to authorize the mayor to make application to Ohio Public Works Commission, excuse me, for funding to help pave Highland Road. That's a stretch between South Bedford Road and the railroad tracks. Found out today that that application was successful. So the city will be receiving a grant for approximately $219,000 to help us pave Highland Road next year.
Line the brick, right?
End of report.
Go out on a high
Top
note.
that.
Yeah, how do I top
He
that?
didn't tell you the total project's $2 million.
Talk about that later.
Just to repeat, what the mayor relayed about the holiday tree lighting, it is Sunday, December 8th from 5 to 7. We do host the event right outside of the city hall here in front. It is a free event, so we invite everyone from the community to come join us. Santa does make a special appearance. He does arrive by fire truck, so the kids usually enjoy that. And we'll have refreshments and some goodies for everyone who attends, so we hope to see you there. Just a few small other things. Mac, which is the Recreation Center's Elf on the Shelf, will be making his reappearance on December 1st on all of our social media pages. He was a big hit last year, every single day. He wound up jet skiing in our pool or taking a yoga class. So we invite people to follow that. We currently have a drop box on at our front desk. We are looking for input for different fitness classes people would like to see in 2020. We currently offer over 350 classes per month, but we are looking to see if people want some change and want something different. And then the last thing, in December, we will be having pop-up promos every day in December, so we invite people to follow us and see what sales and promos we are offering daily during the month of December leading up to the holidays. And that's all I have. Thank you.
I have a question for her, please. Is there any way, are we working towards maybe lessening the amount of cancellations? I have that on my phone, and it's been pretty constant the last 2 months.
Yeah, with over 300, we have exactly, I think, 355 classes a month. The amount of cancellations, I think, totals less than 2 or 3%.
Okay.
And that is usually due to instructor illness, instructors' children's illness, things like that that are last minute. And some of those classes start at 5:30 a.m. and there's no chance of getting someone to cover those, or they're very specialized and we don't have subs with the same certifications to cover those. So they are very minimal in the overall picture of things, but we We did start that text message service, so a lot of people get those notifications even for the classes that don't interest them or that they don't attend, where they didn't know about the other classes prior to that service. But yeah, we really, on average, do not have that many cancellations.
Well, at least you've given me some information that I can relay when I get asked. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Director Barris.
Thank you, Mayor. My report, again, will be on the water M&E conversion to the property tax bill, and will be in the messenger.
Thank you. Chief Ripley.
I can probably top Mr. Gialatti's report because I got confirmation today that Santa Claus is coming to town on the 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th of December. So take that, Mr. Gialatti. Okay? The bags will be available on Monday here and at the rec center. Here 24 hours a day, at the rec center during their hours, and they're kind of 5:30 in the morning till 9 at night, and then different on the weekends, but they're always available. As was mentioned earlier, Pancake Day was in fact Sunday. We had an average year, we served 466 breakfasts, and the benefactor was our Explorer Post. They're trying to plan another New York trip like they made about 4 years ago, different group of kids where they go to all the historic sites for 9/11. So that's something that's being worked on. And as the mayor mentioned, Lieutenant Selinsky will be soon promoted to the rank of Assistant Fire Chief, will be our first full-time Assistant Chief in the history of the fire department. So we're all looking forward to that.
Thank you to you and your staff and the Explorers for the pancake breakfast. That was awesome as usual.
Thank you.
I have a question about the Santa Claus.
No, you
visits.
can't have the recipe. Oh, sorry.
They were very good. Is the zone the same every year?
Yes.
Because people want to be able to plan, you know, whether or not they'll be home that day that Santa Claus is coming to their zone. Can we just make sure that we get the zone map on the website? Because that has been a question that people have been asking.
Kyle, knock on the wall. Let us know you're hearing this.
Hey, Kyle. Yeah.
I'm sure Kyle will more than happily take care of that.
Is that Oscar?
They want the zone map on the
We just need to
website.
get the zone map on the website for Santa Claus.
Well, Santa just goes everywhere.
He visits on specific days, so we just need to make sure we get that.
Thank you. Chief Golden.
Just a reminder, we hit on the snow the other day. We had 3 officers on the road. Last count, we had 34 vehicles off the roadway, 17 crashes. With the 3 officers on the road, we have 2 interstates, several state highways, so the guys were very busy. I think ODOT said the first is the worst. People have to relearn how to drive in snow. So slow down, leave early, you'll get there. But the first one's over now, so everybody should already know how to drive in it again. So that's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. Director Goodetti.
I have nothing specific unless you have some questions or any topic you'd like me to
Nope,
with you.
thanks.
I would like to, we talked about this, to briefly explain the emergency clause.
So this topic came up in or around 2013 previously. When the city enacts emergency legislation, it doesn't necessarily mean emergency in a traditional sense that a building is burning down. And another key element is the clause at the end, the impact of passing it as an emergency measure. It doesn't affect the number of readings that council gives it. That's controlled through a separate motion process. The emergency measure only removes the 30-day referendum period that's traditionally attached to regular ordinances and resolutions. So that's all the emergency language does.
I don't want to belabor this because I think we all probably want to get out of here, but I wrote this down. Maybe we can talk and we can get the answer at a later date. Let's change the terminology unless that's a rule that we have to abide by. You can answer me later on that.
It's statutory language, essentially.
Well, we need to talk to the state and have it changed because people.
Shane,
Call down
If
and
you'd like
get
me
that
to
taken
write a
care
letter,
of.
I'm more than happy to.
this debate happened in Independence a year or 2 ago, and they do use a separate emergency language for stuff that's really not an emergency, so I could get an example.
And we went back through the ordinances and took a look for this year alone that's been passed and the resolutions, and I think it's a little bit less than 25% are actually passed as emergency measures. So the city does make an affirmative effort to not pass measures as an emergency to give that referendum opportunity, however rare it may be. So we do use it sparingly.
Thank you.
And also, didn't you explain to me that a lot of these issues are time sensitive?
Correct, correct, yeah, whether it's getting roads paved or, for example, this legislation tonight to get a loan or to participate in this land reutilization program, it's essential that they be passed because the counties and other entities have timelines that we have to comply with.
Thank you.
Any unfinished business?
I'd like to say thank you to those of you for the fire department, for their support in the fight against breast cancer. I really appreciate the effort that you gentlemen have done and the ladies in your organization. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any new business? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.
Browns are winning, 7-0.
What?